Our scripture reading this morning comes from Revelation chapter 2, verses 8 through 11. To the angel of the church in Smyrna write, "These are the words of him who is the first and the last, who died and came to life again. I know your afflictions and your poverty, yet you are rich. I know the slander of those who say they are Jews, but are not, but are a synagogue of Satan. Do not be afraid of what you are about to suffer. Look, the devil will put some of you in prison to test you, and you will suffer persecution for 10 days. Be faithful, even to the point of death, and I will give you the crown of life. Whoever has an ear to hear, let them hear what the Spirit says to the churches. Whoever overcomes will not be hurt at all by the second death." May God bless the reading and the teaching and the hearing and the living out of this, his living word. May be seated. So this is the fourth sermon in our sermon series on the book of Revelation. By way of recap, the disciple John, who wrote Revelation, is on the island of Patmos. Patmos is about 35 miles off the coast of modern-day Turkey. He's an older man now. He's in his mid-80s, early 90s, ancient by their standards. He's been banished to this little island off the coast of Turkey because he's been faithful. Because he's been faithful to Jesus. John is cut off from his brothers and sisters. He's cut off from the worshiping congregations. He's cut off from his family and friends. He probably feels that at some point he's cut off from God. John is not just suffering for himself, but his heart breaks for the churches back on the mainland. There are at least 12 known churches in what's modern-day Turkey, of which he used to be the leader of many of those churches. And he's on Patmos. But it's on Patmos that Jesus is revealed to John as he's never been before. It's been about 60 years since John has seen Jesus, and he hung out and followed Jesus for about 3 years. But now he's on Patmos, and he gets a bigger vision of who Jesus is. And I couldn't help but think, isn't that a way it is? That so often we meet a bigger Jesus when we are on Patmos. See, when I'm on Patmos, that place of loneliness, that place of faithlessness, that place of doubt, that place of suffering, that place of despair, you know what I want when I'm on the island of Patmos? I want off. I want some boat to come and pick me up. I want a huge turtle or a friendly dolphin to come by and say, "Hop on, let's get off Patmos together." But isn't it on Patmos that so often we grow in our faith? You ask people, when's the time in their life, if you look back and find the time where you grew most in your faith, or when did you experience Jesus in a more real way? Often, it's on this place where John is called Patmos. Now, I haven't booked a reservation to Patmos, and neither have you. We don't want to sign up the tour to Patmos. Oh, I'd like to go to the tour on Patmos. We don't have to sign up. Do you know why? It signs us up. We all have reservations to Patmos because we all suffer at some point in our life, some more than others. Jesus clearly said this. He said, "In this world, you will have trouble. But have courage," or take courage. "I have overcome the world." He's saying this. We all go to Patmos at some point in our life, and we return time and time again, because in this world, you're going to have trouble. And the word trouble is conflict. Either the conflicts of the kingdoms of this world with the kingdom of heaven, or just conflict relationally, or conflict within your own soul. Patmos is that place. And so John is in anguish, not just for his own situation, but for those churches, because the church is back on Asia Minor or Turkey. They're suffering. They're wandering their faith. They had a strong theology of God and Jesus, but now their situation dictated, maybe this Jesus that I believed in isn't really true, because they're suffering. Suffering shakes us like perhaps nothing else. So it's Sunday morning, and John is worshiping. He's been a worshiper all his life, so he has the habit of worshiping. And he hears a loud voice, and the voice says, John, write to the 7 churches. And so he writes a letter. He writes to offer them hope. He writes to offer them strength. And again, by way of review, he writes in a style of literature that makes Revelation so challenging. Most of us haven't read Revelation, have you? You know, we kind of get to chapter 1, 2, and 3, and you kind of get that. Chapter 5 and 6 starts to get different. And then after chapter 5, it goes, whoa. Let's go back to the Gospel of John. Right? So this style of literature called apocalyptic really just means it's the revealing of Jesus. Apocalyptic literature is just the revealing of. Kind of like, don't look, you know, remember when, what's the dog's name? Toto, pull back the curtain of the man behind the curtain? That's apocalypse. It's the revealing of Jesus in a way that we've never perhaps seen him before. And apocalyptic literature seeks to use images and sights and sounds to touch and stir our imaginations to action. That's why I used, if you were here the last 2 weeks, those 2 advertisements. You know, because that's what advertising does. It seeks to stir our emotions so that we act. And apocalyptic literature is similar. It's not just about head knowledge. It's about feeling emotions so we act. Revelation seeks to transform our vision. That's why the song Be Thou My Vision could be the theme song for Revelation. Now, Revelation seeks to transform our vision by helping us do 2 things. One, it sets the present in light of the future. It sets the present right now in light of the future, and it says that Jesus is coming back, that this world is not all there is. It says, be grounded in earth, but realize that heaven is coming, and it's coming soon, real soon. There's great hope for tomorrow. Apocalyptic literature says that Jesus someday soon is going to wipe away every tear, that there'll be no more trouble, there'll be no more hardship, there'll be no more lies, there'll be no more bombs, there'll be no more school shootings, there'll be no more fear. Apocalyptic literature sets the present in light of the future and tries to bring the future more and more. And that's why I love what Paul writes in 2 Corinthians. He says, so fix your eyes not on what is seen, but on what is unseen. Since what is seen is temporary, but what is unseen is eternal. So how do we, and I'm not going to go into it today, how do we fix our eyes every day, every minute, every hour on what is unseen? One way I've tried to do is just memorize that and just try and repeat it, especially when I go to bed at night, in the morning. Jamie, fix your eyes not on what is seen, but on what is unseen. That's what apocalyptic literature seeks to do. It takes the future and brings it into the present. The second thing it tries to do is it sets the seen realities of the present in light of the unseen realities of the present. In other words, it says that Jesus is coming back, but he's not coming from very far. He's right here. He's right here. He's in the midst of us. He's speaking to us. He yearns to comfort us and challenge us and convict us every day. He's right here. Are we listening? Are we aware? And that's why the main verb in the book of Revelation is look, perceive, perceive. Things are not as they seem. Whomever is on the throne is not on the throne. And that's why the number 1 image in the book of Revelation is a throne. Domitian is not on the throne. Biden is not on the throne. Trump is not on the throne. Jesus is on the throne. Think, perceive, look. Got it? That's what Revelation tries to do. And that's why I love Isaiah 41:10. So do not fear, for I am with you. So do not fear, for I am with you. Fix your eyes not on what is seen, but on what is unseen. And so do not fear, for I am with you. That's what apocalyptic literature seeks to do. Okay, introduction. That was the introduction. Just say, wow, now the introduction? What was that, the prelude? Today I want us to think about the second church that John writes to. First church was Ephesus. That was last week. And the church of Ephesus was this awesome, big, busy church, but they lost their first love. And now they just had duty love. And sometimes we need duty love. But it's so good to have first love. First love in our faith, first love relationally. And John told them to remember, repent, and repeat. And by the way, if you missed that sermon, I send them out every week. Please try and watch the sermons or at least listen to them. Now, Smyrna is just up the road, about 35 miles from Ephesus, underscored in red. The word Smyrna means myrrh. The word Smyrna means myrrh, and myrrh produces a fragrance when you crush it or pierce it. And so Smyrna is an apt name for what's going on there, because the Christians at Smyrna are being crushed and pierced, and the fragrance of Christ is filling the city. The followers of Jesus at Smyrna are suffering. They are suffering greatly, and they're drifting in their faith. They wonder if they have been duped. And so John writes to them. And John says there's two responses to when we suffer. One is do not be afraid, and the other is have courage. One response to suffering is fear. And that's perhaps a natural response. Any of you experiencing fear these days? You look at politics, you look at our environment, you look at finances, you look at relationships. I mean, there's a lot to be worried about. There always has been, but it seems a little heightened now, does it not? Any of you concerned about anything? Any of you worry about anything out there and in your own life? Of course. And one natural response is just to be afraid, to fear. But John also says there's another response, and that is to be faithful. And so that's the question really today. In light of life, in light of suffering, how do we respond? Faith or fear? Fear or faith? Will fear speak into your life and override faith? Or will faith speak into your life and override fear? And it's a daily battle. Well, let's look at our text. It starts out this way. Jesus is saying to this church, I know your afflictions. And afflictions, again, is crushing pressure. I know your afflictions. And the afflictions are at least caused by, first of all, poverty. He says, I know your afflictions, I know your poverty. I know what's happening there. Now, a probable reason for the poverty is because these Christians at Smyrna are uncompromising in their faith. To have poverty in Smyrna was a little unusual because Smyrna was a very wealthy place because of their trade and textile. The Christians at Smyrna were probably not bowing down to the pressure to worship Domitian, the Caesar of the day in Rome. The closest analogy I can think of is what happened to Jews in Nazi Germany in the 30s. Their travel was restricted, their shops were vandalized. Next. Jude means Jew. Their businesses were destroyed. Their places of worship were defiled. And so they, like the people of Smyrna, they're just suffering for their faith. They're impoverished. And it was crushing them. And Jesus says, I know your afflictions, I know your poverty, I know, and it's not just that, people were talking badly about them. People were gossiping about them. They were mocking how they looked. They were said to be cannibals because they ate the Lord's body and blood. They were said to be atheists because they only worshiped one God, not the multiplicity of gods in their culture. And so there was slander and there was poverty, and they were suffering greatly. And then all of a sudden, can you imagine being in that congregation of great suffering, and word comes, John has written us a letter. And John has written us a letter, and the words are from Jesus. Can you imagine what that would have felt like? And you gather together, this suffering congregation, and hear the words. We're going to hear from John, who heard from Jesus. Jesus knows our situation. Can you imagine when he starts, I know your afflictions, I know your poverty, I know the slander. What would you hope for next? I know what's going on, Jesus says. I know you're suffering. I know the poverty. I know the slander. I know the afflictions. And what would you hope for next? I'm coming. I'm coming, or I'm going to send someone over to rescue you and help you. Nope, here's what he says. Verse 10. Do not be afraid of what you are about to suffer. Whoa. We're already suffering. You mean there's more? Look, perceive. The devil will put some of you in prison. Be faithful even to the point of death. Thanks a lot. This is what you call care, Jesus? This is what you call love? This is what you call protection? So poverty and slander is just the beginning. Jesus tells them that imprisonment and death were about to come. It's unsettling, isn't it? And how do you respond? You can respond in fear, or you can respond in faith. And you can understand why you would respond in fear, right? Jesus is saying you need to gain faith to lose fear. And faith is not nurtured by reasons. It's really nurtured by a relationship with me. This is what Revelation is primarily about. It's not about answers to suffering. It's not about 10 things to put together to figure out the puzzle. It's about seeing Jesus, being rooted and grounded in Jesus. Or in John 15, being connected to Jesus. There are things to do that we'll look at later, but the main thing is to stay rooted and grounded in Jesus. That's the key. Look to Jesus. Look at Jesus. Cling to him. Now, we've already seen this vision of Jesus. So it's interesting that in chapter 1, we saw this unbelievable vision of Jesus. John is suffering, the congregations are suffering, and the first thing that Jesus does is reveals himself. Not answers, but himself. Remember, and I put this picture up. You know, John sees this vision of hair white as snow, eyes blazing like fire, feet like bronze, a double-edged sword coming out of his mouth. He's holding 7 hands and his face shining like the sun. It's a vision of Jesus. And it says, I'm in control, and my word has authority, and my eyes are pure and purifying, and I am the Ancient of Days. And so in chapter 2, what Jesus is going to say to this suffering church and to us is a reminder of who this Jesus is and what he has done. And there's 7 things. This is not a 3-point sermon. This is a 7-point sermon, but we'll go fast. So listen fast. Ready? Ready? Yes. All right. 7 characteristics of Jesus from Revelation 2 that when embraced, when remembered, when received, will help our faith speak to our fears and not fears dominate our life. Number 1, Jesus is eternal. Jesus is eternal. Jesus says, these are the words of him who is the first and the last. He's the Alpha and the Omega, the A and the Z, the beginning and the end. Before we were born, Jesus was. And after we die, Jesus is. The suffering of life ebbs and flows and causes us to waver and wander. But Jesus stands before all suffering, after all suffering, and most importantly, I think, in all suffering. I remember when I was in college, I was on the track team, and I didn't run, I threw a stick, the javelin. And hey, it paid for half of my college. Pretty good deal, right? Throwing a stick. Anyway, I would support the cross-country team because they were on the track team, and I went out to watch a cross-country meet. And Jeff was a good friend of mine. He was favored to win the conference championship, and his dad was there for the conference championship. And they were huddled up before the race, and I could see Jeff was pumped up. And the race started, and Jeff was doing pretty well, but you could tell he was tired. And his dad, if you've ever seen a cross-country meet, you can actually see some of the meet, some of the running by knowing what positions to go to. They don't run around a track, they run through woods and stuff like that. So Jeff's dad knew where to go, and he'd go to one spot and he'd yell something at him. And then at the end, Jeff's coming in and he's dog-tired, but I could see his dad afterwards there. That's, I think, what it's like, that in the beginning of life, Jesus is there saying, "You are my son. You are my daughter. I love you. With you, I'm well pleased. You're gifted. You're empowered. Go." He's with us in the suffering. He walks among the lampstands. He's in the boat with the disciples in the middle of the storm. He's with you now. And he'll be with us at the end saying, "Well done, good and faithful servant." The words first and last tell us that in the race of life, we're never alone. We don't start alone. We don't run alone. We don't end alone. I like how the author of Hebrews puts it, using a racing image. He says this, "Let us run with perseverance the race marked out for us, fixing our eyes on Jesus." There it is again. Fixing our eyes on Jesus. That's why I encourage you to read through the Gospels this year, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Every day, try and just fix your eyes on Jesus through the Scriptures. Fix your eyes on Jesus in creation. Fix your eyes on Jesus in the prayer. Memorize some of these verses and repeat them over and over. It takes work. To run the race and to run well takes hard discipline and work. Fix your eyes on Jesus, the author, the beginner, and the perfecter of our faith. I love that. Consider him who endured such opposition from sinners so that you will not grow weary and lose heart. Jesus is eternal. Number two, Jesus is victorious. Not only is Jesus eternal, but he's victorious, meaning in the end, he wins. Jesus is the one who died and came to life again. People live and die. Jesus died and now he lives. Jesus conquered death. I mean, think about what we believe. We believe that Jesus, fully human, died on a cross and was in the ground and rose from the dead. What? That's what we believe. He died and rose from the dead. And then he says this, "I am the resurrection and the life, and whoever believes in me," that's where you are, you're a whoever believes in me will live, and even though they die, and whoever lives and believes in me will never die. Do you believe this? I love the question. It doesn't force faith. You are an eternal being. Your spirit will live forever and ever and ever. Our bodies won't. Thank God. You know, I think of the Apostle Paul. Outwardly, we're wasting away, yet inwardly, we're being renewed day by day. Outwardly, we're wasting away. Can I hear an amen? Amen. Anybody wasting away outside? Let's move on. You are an eternal being. Your spirit will live forever and ever and ever and ever and ever and ever and ever and ever. Think about that. Wow. The question is where and with whom? Fear does not have to grip us because death is not the last chapter. Death is not the last chapter. Jesus is victorious. He's eternal. Number three, he's all-knowing. Thirdly, Jesus is all-knowing. He says, "I know your afflictions. I know your poverty. I know your slander." Jesus knows your pain. Jesus knows your doubt. Jesus knows your stuff. How does that make you feel? He knows all your stuff. Jesus knows. He knows. He knows the crushing pressure. There is no suffering that you will go through that Jesus has not felt. The situation might be different, but the degree to which you suffer, Jesus has been there and worse. You got that? He's acquainted with, he knows you're suffering. He just doesn't know about it, but he's experienced the level of doubt and suffering that you and I experience. He knows. He just knows. He's suffered in every way that we suffer. He is God with us. He's Emmanuel. He's eternal. He's victorious. He's all-knowing. And here's one. Jesus is in control. He is on the throne. Things are not as they seem. The world seems spinning out of control. But Jesus is on the throne. Look, 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 perceive. There's this interesting quote by Jesus in verse 10. He says, and you will suffer persecution for how long? 10 days. You'll suffer persecution for 10 days. What's that mean? Well, in Revelation, it could mean literal 10 days, but I think it's symbolic. I think it's symbolic in Revelation. Your suffering will end. Not 10 decades, not 10,000 years, 10 days, a relatively short period of time. And I love an Amazing Grace when we sing, when we've been there 10,000 years, our life will feel like our suffering, and I say this gently and with trepidation, our suffering in this life, we won't even remember. You are an eternal being. You will live not just 90 years, not just 9,000 years, not just 90 million years, forever. You got that? No, we don't. No, we don't. Because we don't live that way. We often live like this life is it. No, you're an eternal being. Okay. Jesus is in control. How long will the suffering last? I don't know. It might last the rest of your life, Jesus says. Some of you are going to die. A famous martyr named Polycarp, he died. He was from Smyrna, and he died for his faith. All the other disciples died. Eventually, John's going to die for his faith. Jesus is in control. Evil is on a leash. There is a throne, and it's not a human throne. Jesus is on the throne. Next, fifthly, Jesus is a truth teller. While the devil is the father of lies, and when you and I lie, we are more like the devil than we are more like God. And when people lie and they become liars, they're taking their cues from the father of lies. Jesus says, I am the way and the truth. When we speak the truth, we are acting more like Jesus. And when people in kingdom speak the truth, that's the kingdom of God. Jesus told the Christians, you are about to suffer. You will be put in prison. You will suffer persecution. Jesus is a truth teller. And we need to listen to him. Again, I've told you these things so that in me you may have peace. In this world you will have trouble. That's what he says. He says, remember the words I spoke to you. No servant is greater than his master. If they persecuted me, they will persecute you also. Now, whether we experience persecution for our faith, most of us don't, especially to this degree. We all suffer. Jesus told us ahead of time that you will suffer. You will have pain in this life. So why does it shake our faith so? When you and I suffer, it seems to contradict our faith. For them, when they suffered, it confirmed their faith. And that's where I want to be, more and more. Jesus is eternal. He's victorious. He's all-knowing. He's in control. He's a truth teller. 6, he brings good out of evil. He brings good out of evil. Jesus says, the devil will put some of you in prison to test you. The word test can mean trample. He puts you in prison. The devil causes you to suffer so that it'll crush your faith. The word can also mean to prove or improve. See, suffering can sanctify. The prison can produce fruit. The devil puts some of you to test you, to trample you. But what the evil one means for harm, God means for good. God can take the worst stuff in our life and bring good out of it. Not that it's good, Not that your decision was good, not that my decision was good, not that what they did was good, not that what happened to you was good, but in any and every situation, God can bring goodness out of that. Suffering can bring good stuff. That's why James, who was the brother of Jesus, says this: "Consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters." Not there yet. "Whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith develops perseverance." Next. "Perseverance must finish its work so that you may be mature and complete." Again, I don't sign up for Patmos, but Patmos is the place where we often grow the most and become more like Jesus the most. Why? In part because it humbles us. And we know our need. Lord, I need you. I thought I didn't need you. I need you, Lord. The seventh thing is Jesus is the source of ultimate hope. Jesus says, "Be faithful even to the point of death, and I will give you the crown of life." The crown of life. I love life. Jesus comes that you may have life and have it to the full. The crown of life is like a victor's crown. Smyrna was famous, as many of the Greek cities were, Roman cities were, and Greek cities, for athletic games. And so Jesus uses this analogy that they would connect with. And the Christian life is like a race or a contest. It's hard. There's suffering. To be victorious, we need to be disciplined. Not to earn God's love, but to grow and mature and stand strong and have faith that overrides fear. I want to live as a faithful person, not as a fearful person. Yes? And that takes effort and work. Jesus offers us hope. He offers us hope. He offers us the life. And then this last phrase he says, "Whoever overcomes will not be hurt at all by the second death." What's the second death? See, in the first death is a physical death. We all die. We all die, the physical death. But the second death is a spiritual death. We all don't have to experience that. It's eternal separation from the presence of God, and each and every human being gets to decide. That's why Jesus says, "Do you believe this? Do you believe this? It's your choice." People decide where they spend eternity. God doesn't force them. He says it's your decision. And Jesus says here, "Whoever overcomes will not be hurt at all by the second death." The first death, we all die. That's a physical death. The second death is a spiritual death. The second death is spiritual separation from God for all eternity, and we get to decide. People out there get to decide. We're all going to die the first death, but Jesus died the first death, so we do not have to die the second death, the spiritual death. And those who trust in Jesus, those who understand that they need a rescuer, do not die the second death. As one preacher said, "Those who are born once die twice, and those who are born twice die once." Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo-hoo. Wish I'd said it. Those who are born just once die twice. But those who are born physically and then born again spiritually just die once. You are an eternal being. Where will you spend eternity is up to you, is up to our friends, is up to the world. Our faith is nurtured by a new and renewed vision of Jesus. The worship team's going to sing a song that kind of speaks to my soul, and I pray that as you listen and even sing these words, that you'll invite Jesus in. Confess what you need to confess. May your faith be strengthened. The words go like this: "Grander earth has quaked before, moved by the sound of his voice. Seas that are shaken and stirred can be calmed and broken for my regard. Through it all, my eyes are on you. Look, through it all, my eyes are on you. Through it all, it is well with my soul. Far be it from me to not believe, even when my eyes can't see. And this mountain that's in front of me will be thrown into the sea. So let my soul and trust. So let go my soul and trust in him. So let go my soul and trust in him. The waves and the winds still know. It is well with my soul. It is well with my soul. It is well with my soul. Come, Lord Jesus, come.